Hey everybody, don't mind the air conditioner. But in lieu of my 3 years of sobriety coming up August 4th in a week, I figured I'd pump out some more content. But why introverts are so drawn to alcohol? The answers are pretty obvious, but there's three types of people. There's extroverts, omniverts, and introverts. Extroverts are very social butterflies, outgoing. Omniverts are a little bit in between both, right? They fluctuate in between both. I'd categorize myself as an omnivert. I go in between, I have a social battery. When it drains, I don't want to deal with people. But I also border into introvert. I wouldn't say, I don't know, like loner territory. Not really. I mean, I do okay on my own. I'm more of a lone wolf, I'd say. But yeah, between omnivert and introvert, okay? And introverts, they're closed off. They don't socialize. They like to be left alone. They can be socially awkward. And, I've had those problems, growing up. I've gotten better at it. But I have to be in the mood. Like, I can really talk to people if I'm in the mood. If I'm not, I'm closed off, right? It's just the way it is. But growing up, when I first experienced alcohol, it's like it took that veil off, right? It just makes you not care, right? You don't care what people think. You're just going to say what you want to say. But the thing is, it's a slippery slope, because when you get like really buzzed or drunk, you start saying things you don't mean. You're belligerent, so on and so forth. Not everybody, but you get what I'm saying. So it backfires. Same with like depression. Like the end game of drinking, like heavily, you get very depressed at the end of the night, right? It's all fun and games the first couple hours. But as an introvert, omnivert, you're chasing that euphoric feeling and that numbness to make you not care. And I'm sure there's other drugs that are like this, like whatever. I've never done cocaine or a lot of opiates or anything, but I'm sure they just bring that guard down, right? But alcohol, for me, it did that. And eventually, I think over time, that effect, it's still there, but it's weird because, yeah, it opens you up. It makes you more social, but there's times I'm still an introvert, even when I'm half drunk and I'm in a public place. I still feel alone anyways. There's times I've been at the bar at a party, had a lot of fun times partying. But there have been times where I'm partying and I'm like, man, I don't want to be around these people, or I'm not talking, or I'm shy, I'm closed off. That still happens even with alcohol. So sometimes it's like this substance I'm abusing is not even having the desired effect, right? And yeah, it's still like that sober, but yeah, it might open me up a bit, but at what cost, right? And it's happened before where I was very closed off even while drunk. I don't know how to explain it. You just are how you are. So, and if it's always making you a social butterfly as an introvert, I mean, that's an addictive thing. It really is. It makes you believe, it turns you into a more likable person, a more social person. But you can be that way sober too. You can be hard, without being inebriated, but it's definitely achievable. But yeah, I would, and the thing is, a lot of extroverts abuse alcohol too, because it amplifies their extrovertness, right? Is that a word? I'm pretty sure it is. But, anyone can abuse alcohol, but I feel like the introvert personality is more susceptible to it. Same with like depression, and these things correlate, anxiety, all these things correlate into it, right? And it takes those feelings away. And that's what we like. I loved that feeling of my central nervous system just getting obliterated and numbing out, right? That was what I chased. But life is light years better. Yeah, I have my down days. Yeah, I'm tired. Yeah, I think about alcohol once in a while. Like, I'm very resilient to it now. Like, it's much more rare than it was, your first 3-6 months. It's very hard to get it out of your mind. And then eventually that wears thin, just like nicotine. Like, a few times a year I'll think about vaping and I'm like, man, I'd love to vape again. But it's so much less than the first couple months. It's just badgering you nonstop, right? But yeah, these personality types, you mix in addictive personality as well, which I 100% have. It's like 0 or 100 with everything. So I got to really moderate what I'm doing, with working out, impulse spending. I everything I own, I bought with cash, and I'm thankful for that. I have no debt. My car's paid off. But I do spend a lot of money. I make decent money, and a lot of my investments do good. But sometimes I do impulse spend. You got to be patient and not be so impulsive with things, right? And I'm working on that. I still have, my anger issues. That's another thing I'm working on. That comes with the sobriety. You're not masking that. You're not dulling that out. So that comes to the top of the boiling pot, so to speak. But yeah, life is great. I have to talk about age one of these videos. Like, I'm 38, man. I just turned 38. It's crazy to me. Like, my 20s and 30s just blew right by. And I've been so productive since I got sober. I always worked, always had an okay head on my shoulder, but I'm a whole different person with sobriety. Like, I'm way more clear-headed, I'm not laying around. I'm more productive. I still have my lazy side. Don't get me wrong. I'm very ambitious, but I can also be lazy. Just, just the way I am, man. But, yeah, I would really try, if you're drinking heavily because you're an introvert, you got to get that sobriety time down. You got to really work on socializing while sober. It makes it a lot easier. And if you're closed off, it's still going to happen. That's just how you are. Like, if I didn't, I would, I would love to have a life without anxiety, OCD, slight depression, even though that's not really an issue anymore. But, oh my gosh, I'd be even a better person, but it's just the way it is. Like, I was gifted. I'm pretty smart. My IQ is pretty high. I'm not going to talk about it too much, but I have an above average IQ, but I also have OCD and, past depression and anxiety issues. So, like, yeah, whatever God there is sprinkles a little bit of this, a little bit of that. You got to play off your strengths and try to strengthen your weaknesses, right? My OCD, it makes me very efficient. It makes me very critical, and I go in depth with everything, but I also waste a lot of time in thought, with intrusive thoughts. I'd rather not have it, but it makes me who I am, and the choices I make, you just have to accept it. It's not going to go away. Everyone's like a flower. You blossom as you will, right? Everyone's like a snowflake. Everyone's different. Everyone's battling demons or they have issues. Some people have it easier than others. There's always someone who's going to have it worse than you. I don't want to go to work every day, but I do because I know the alternative. I like having money. I like setting myself up for the future. I hope in my 50s I'm financially secure, and I'm in that route, I'm doing it, and it feels good. The days are long, but the years are short, The work you put in now will be the fruits of your labor in the future, and it's true. And I'm very grateful. My fiance is amazing too, We're building a future together, and it feels amazing. But yeah, anyways, the topic of the video, the introverts abusing alcohol, right? I've always hated being caged by a substance, like even caffeine, which I'm drinking right now. I hate don't get me wrong, like consumption of food and liquid, you have to survive, right? But like nicotine, does it have any benefits? It may mentally for your brain, right? But it's a constant thing you need. It's like I felt caged by it, smoking all the time, and I had to rid myself of it. Same with alcohol, like having to on the weekends, just being stuck doing this thing that I don't necessarily want to do. I hated it, so I had to rid it of my life. And it's very freeing not having to do that, not feeling like crap, not regretting the night. It's so freeing. I love it, Same with nicotine, not having to puff a vape all the time after dinner, after sex, after movie, after all the time. Same with like cigs, when I was drinking at the bar. It's disgusting. It really is. And I don't even, I could care less about this stuff now. Caffeine's going to be the same way when it goes, Since I got sober, I regained a bit of weight. Like I lost 120 pounds, maybe a bit more. I don't know, around 100, 130 pounds. I don't know. I regained probably 40. So I'm back over like 215, 220. And that's been depressing. But the thing is, I'd rather be chunky and sober than drunk and fit, right? Because when I was at my lightest weight, I was still drinking. And getting sober, it makes the dieting a lot harder. And my fiance eats whatever she wants and she's still thin. That makes it harder. But I got to perfect it and lose the weight again, and then it will be perfect. Like if I rid myself of the caffeine, lose the weight, it's going to be, I will have conquered most of my demons. No one's perfect. And then my anger, I say anger. I'm not a very angry person. It's just when I get mad, right? Like I get stuck in it for a bit and then I get out of it and I don't care. I never care hours later. But when I'm in the moment, it's hard for me my emotional intelligence isn't as good as I want it to be. I react, right? And that's a flaw, and I'm trying to work on it. And it's, sometimes I think I'm good and something will really spark me up, and it gets me going. But yeah, that's really all for this video. Don't really know what else to say. I just think of not having to do something, right? Like it almost was like that. Like I had to drink or I had to smoke. It was like, and if I didn't, I'd crave it, and then I'd do it, and you were just, it was just a perpetual habit. Even if it wasn't every day, it was still like, man, drinking all that alcohol when I did, or smoking as much as I did. It's like, oh my gosh, it consumes you. It's like you're in a cage, right? I don't like that. I don't like spending money on consumables other than food. Like I'm big on, I don't mess with convenience. A lot of my cash flow goes into investments. I used to hold a lot of cash, and I don't as much anymore. I'd like to rebuild my cash liquidity up again, but a lot of my money just goes into investments because I feel like with inflation, it's not smart to hold a lot of money. And there is a purpose to hold a lot of money, don't get me wrong, so you can deploy it. So I'm going to get my cash reserves way up. Like I'm fine on cash, but I put it into bullion, the S&P 500, crypto, Counter-Strike skins. That might be laughable, but they hold a value. They have a market value. Retro games, cards, figures, you name it. I'm buying it. Some may tank in the future. Some may go way up. I don't know. It is what it is. And we'll revisit that in 10, 20 years and see what's up. Because at the time, everyone wants the expensive thing, right? I was in Pokemon well before the recent craze, right? A lot of the sealed product I bought, it's up $300-$400 a piece on like a $40 item. And I'm probably going to offload like 30-40% of it here when I can, but it just keeps going up. I'm going to hold, over half of it long term. But a lot of the singles I bought in my personal collection, that's all double, tripled. I'll have to make a video on Pokemon. I made a lot of moves before the hype. You don't want to do it when everyone's buying it and going after it. There's a lot of $10, $15 cards I bought that are up to $50, $60, $150 a piece. It blows my mind. And people are spending those prices because that's where the market is. Like, when you're so zoomed in, people don't zoom out and see, oh my God, that was a $5 card a year ago. Should I buy it or not? I'm not saying it's a bad thing to do, but I don't like buying things that are topped out. I like buying things when they're level or down, or they have room for growth, right? Like, I have not really bought any Pokemon the past year and a half because of how the prices have been, how people are going crazy. I wish I would have. Like 151, I walked by a bunch at Walmart and didn't touch it. I regret that. But yeah, a lot of the more modern sets, like I have a bunch of Evolving in that era stored away, and I got to offload it. But that's for another video. I don't know why I'm rambling on about that. But yeah, you can make money putting your money into things, right? And that's what it's all about. It's just, number one, people don't have the money to do it, or they're too scared to risk their money, or 3, they don't have the knowledge, right? But it takes years to accumulate, the wealth of knowledge. And I'm fortunate enough to have been able to do that the past half decade. And I wish I would have done it when I was much younger. But, I was consumed with partying. I worked, but it was just partying. I really wish I would have had the investment hedge when I was younger. But better late than never. And I went through all that, so I think differently. I think how I do now because of it, so I don't regret it. But I love it. I love speculating and investing. And I go off on ramble. I go off on a ramble and tangent. But yeah, you get the topic. Take it easy.